You're listening to the Small and Supercharged podcast with Ria Freeman, episode 164. On today's podcast, we're joined by not one, but two lovely ladies. And one you'll know, this is her third time you're a regular now, Di.
I am.
So we have got Di, Fisher or Adamson. What are we going by nowadays?
Well, what day of the week is it? You know, I know I've been at work today, so we'll go with Fisher. It's all a King's Horse. We'll go with Fisher. I'm here in my beta role. We'll go with Fisher.
Right, we've got
Fisher
Dr. Di Fisher, CMO of Beta, and other things too. And we've also got Claire Williams, who hasn't been on the podcast before, but Claire is the Executive Director of Beta, which stands for the British Equestrian Trade Association. But thank you so much, ladies, for joining me today.
Pleasure.
We're going to have a chat about Beta, and we're also going to have a chat about Beta's incredible summer of safety. Hence, we've got the dream team here. So, Claire, can you tell us a bit about Beta to start with, and obviously a bit about you and how you got into the role as well?
Okay, so Beta is the British Equestrian Trade Association. It is the trade association for manufacturers, wholesalers, distributors, retailers, anyone with a business in the equestrian industry. And as a trade association, we offer them a range of benefits, like discounted services and other bits and pieces that will help their business run better. We offer training courses, like the fantastic social media course run for us by a certain Ria Freeman. As well as lots of training courses about products, so hat fitting, body protector fitting. And then we also run events like conferences, and we also, of course, have Beta International, which is the trade fair we run. But also we really fight for our members' rights and help create an environment that enables them to do their business. We have a wide range of members. So we have lots from the safety, clothing, saddlery, but also a lot from the feed sector. So we do a lot on the feed side. We run the NOP scheme to reduce the risk of naturally prohibited substances occurring in feed. And loads of other stuff. So that's Beta. So that keeps me pretty busy. And I live in Yorkshire, but as you can perhaps tell from my accent, I wasn't born in Yorkshire. I was born in New Zealand a long time ago. And I spent 10 years in Germany working for a New Zealand company in the 90s before seeing an advertisement for the chief executive role of Beta in Horse and Hound. Thank you, Horse and Hound. One Christmas, and so I applied for it, and when I got back from Christmas in New Zealand, I got a job interview for it, and so that's how I ended up in Beta in 2000.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
So thank you. So Horse and Hound is to blame for me ending up at Beta.
I mean,
and spookily, this is, you see, I believe in fate. Because I was living in Germany, I didn't buy Horse and Hound, and my other half didn't buy Horse and Hound, but we'd been to badminton that year and signed something, and so they sent us a free copy, and the ad was in the free copy that landed on Bob's doorstep. How about that for spooky?
That's stars aligning, isn't it? That's stars aligning.
Isn't it?
That's the universe at work, to be fair.
So 21 years later, they're not fed up with me yet, and I'm still here.
And you speak Russian?
I do, in German. Yeah, I'm fluent in German, and I speak Russian and a wee bit of Spanish, and I can understand French.
I can barely speak English some days, and I do a lot of writing for a job.
I speak Kiwi. Yeah, as you can tell, I speak Kiwi. But it's good fun.
I didn't know that. I have to say, I've learned, obviously, with Kirsten, I've been doing some social media courses with Beta, and I've learned masses about all of the stuff that Beta does, for obviously working with you in a bit of a close way. And you're one of the busiest people I think I've ever met. You're always doing things, but for the good of the trade. And I know you did a huge amount with the whole Brexit debacle, and how that's affected so much. I know in different times when there's been an issue with a naturally occurring prohibited substance that's found its way into feed. I know you work incredibly hard to help sort that out, because it rarely affects one person. It seems to be a wider spread thing, and you do a lot behind the scenes, don't you, that we don't, as people from not slightly out of the industry, but not, I don't make feed. I think we don't realize how much you actually do behind the scenes.
I think also a lot of my members don't necessarily know what we do behind the scenes. They see the result. So last year with COVID, we did lots, and they saw that perhaps because they kept getting interminable emails from me telling them how to apply for grants and what to do and how to make themselves COVID safe. But a lot of the other stuff. So like this now currently, the FEI in their infinite wisdom have decided to suggest putting a substance called Vitis agnus castus, which is found in chestberry, on the banned substances list as a controlled medication. The problem being we use hundreds of tons of that to go into, we were talking before we started about stroppy mare products. That's what's put into those products to help the hormonal side for mares. And so they are now suggesting that they're going to ban them.
Oh, wow.
So we've been, thanks to my members in my feed committee, they've been writing a case to say to the FEI, come on guys, you're going to ban a natural feed material that's on the feed materials list, and if people can't use it, they're all going to go and use a pharmaceutical solution and buy Regulate, which is legal to compete on.
I have a feeling that product is actually one of my horse's balancers. I think is it because it's hormone connected. Could it be to do with older horses as well?
It is also, it's not been proven, but they do also use it for Cushingoids, and so for Cushing's, and it is in a couple of the senior balancers. Yes,
it is a senior balancer I'm feeding. Yeah, I thought when you were talking about it the other day, I was sure I clocked it on the list on what my horses have. I thought that's interesting, and I know obviously because I have worked with a few supplement and feeding companies in the past, that's one that we hear quite a lot when it comes to moody mares, hormonal mares, and just kind of keeping that balance. But again, that's work that I think most normal people, and no such thing, but people who aren't in the trade wouldn't necessarily know that actually you're working really hard on these things all the time.
No, I think people probably think of, when they think of beta, they hopefully think of NOPs, or they think of the badge on their body protector.
Yes, absolutely, because that's obviously the different levels that equate to the different levels of protection, but obviously a huge amount goes into behind that rather than just pop a sticker on there, which is beautifully connected to safety. And Di is a fairly new addition to the beta lineup, aren't you, Di? Can you talk about your role and how you got into it?
Yeah, so I'm I think your first regular chief medical officer for beta. I actually sent Claire an email because I was I'm a major trauma consultant, as you know, and I was seeing a lot of equestrian trauma, but from a national perspective, we weren't collecting this data, and it just, to be honest, just concerned me a little bit. I knew that potentially some of the safety wear was being based on motorbike accidents and on motorbike kit, and I was just a bit concerned that, you know, if the manufacturing wasn't getting the information that we weren't collecting, and I did feel that would be incredibly useful. I suspect very strongly that we'll be giving them a great big pat on the back and saying what you've done is amazing. But I do think we need that information. So I actually contacted Claire to say, I think there's some common ground here where I can help you, and we could work on this together. So we obviously had our Zooms and stuff, and then I was very lucky to be offered the position after it had been discussed at board, is it board or committee, or yeah, so I was delighted to take that, and I've had, you know, fantastic opportunities already to get involved with, you know, obviously with Summer of Safety. I've been up to Charles Owen, we went recently, didn't we had a really good look around the factory, and it's just really reassuring to see. And at the time I just sort of got rolling, hadn't I, with all the King's horses, and starting to do work around educating equestrians to take a bit more responsibility for themselves, taking responsibility in the way that they report their injuries, and just empowering them a little bit more. So the stuff works quite nicely together. So I'm there as a resource to any beta members. I'm there as a resource for them, so they can either contact me directly or through Claire, and to support anybody in the equestrian injury that needs any medical input. More than happy.
I
So
think
I was thrilled that you emailed me, because I don't know whether I told you, but I had your email address given to me by James just before
Okay.
Christmas. And I said, oh, I'll email her in the new year. And then your email came in. So that was,
Oh, you see.
again, that was really good.
Before this kind of discussion, I know, and I'm hoping you're going to share a little bit about how that's kind of changing, but as you said, the safety data that all the manufacturers had was based on motorcycle injury, because there was just no horse injury recorded in the, I mean, Di will know better, but there's a database and there's a system that records.
Yeah, so there's a system called TARN, which is a national database that collects all trauma data throughout the UK. And when I fill out my trauma sort of like notes, as I did last night, if I'm talking about an RTC or a motorbike accident, whatever, I'm actually, ticking boxes as to what PPE somebody's got. Are they wearing a helmet? Are they, have they got this, that, and the other on? And when you actually look through the amount of equestrian injury that we see, so if it's coming up to a major trauma centre and being transferred in, then it's significant injuries that come to us. Otherwise, you would just be managed in your local emergency department, maybe with an overnight stay. So if you're coming up to us, there's a real problem. We're seeing at least one a week at the moment, equestrian, that's essentially going to ITU. So these are significant at that level at the moment. Yes. And when I went back through sort of the last 6 years, I went back through the data of who had actually had to come through the resuscitation room, so actually been recognised as being a potential or a serious injury. It's significant amounts. I was shocked at how much was coming through. But what worries me more is the fact that I know that we are so bad at describing our injuries that we don't trigger the triage tools because we don't describe it properly. There's an absolute mismatch between doctors and equestrians because we speak a different language to everybody, and then on top of that, equestrians do as well. So yeah, we're doing some work around that as well. That takes a little bit more time because it's getting it accepted at a national level that they will nationally change how they're collecting data. I've done it for within our hospital, and we've actually trawled back through 9 years worth of data now, and we have all of that. So we can do some work with that in the future. I've supported some work with looking at maxillofacial injuries in equestrians that's just been published. So there's it's just bringing all of that to the people that are trying to keep us safer. Like, why are we holding on to that data? That's silly. We need to give them and let them have access to that data, and that's where myself, and being a major trauma consultant and being CMO for Beta, allows me to kind of make that connection and get that information flowing between the two.
We won't have had access to that. And what's key as well is that we do have accident data, but it's a lot of competition accident data. And I think what we all know, and so we've done Beta's done research about wearing, numbers who wear them, and the broad, I've had an accident, I've affected this bit. So we know the rate of accident, and we know, so when they're competing, what happens. But I think what's key about what the data that Di can come up with is closing the circle. And a lot of people that end up with her don't compete. They've not been riding when they've had accidents. So there is no record of them. And so that's why it's so important, is we're good at perhaps getting information from the riders and, I've had an accident, or I came off 5 times last year. But it's actually the ones that do end up with serious injuries disappear into the system, and we have no way of knowing.
And I guess it's the depth of that knowledge you're going to gain, rather than, I fell off and banged my head. You're going to have obviously I appreciate it will be
anonymized.
Yeah, there we go. So it's not like, Jane, I always say Jane's in
You always say Jane. You always say Jane.
I get a complex if I was Jane.
I know.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Did you get bullied by Jane?
No, all the Janes I know are really lovely.
I was going to say, well, the ones I know are quite okay.
Anyway, but it's going to be, so it's not going to be specific to people, but it's going to allow that doctor knowledge, that depth of exactly what happened.
Yeah, it's huge, because we don't know, like you're saying, even if I don't know. I mean, I don't suspect this will happen, but say, I don't know, that you find out that every single person that's wearing X PPE is getting this injury at this place, you know, does it mean that actually you need 2 mil added there and 2 mil taken off there? Who knows? Who knows? At the moment, I'm very happy with the standards that are out there from a medical perspective, and I'm very happy with the manufacturer that we have available to us. It's absolutely fabulous. And it definitely 100,000,000% reduces injury or severity of injury. There is no question that you know, using PPE correctly fitted, you know, reduces severity of any injury, or can stop some injury. So, you know, but like you say, having that depth and having that reassurance from one perspective, and then also having the ability to adapt if needed in response to the real data, and as Claire says, the real data of the people that actually do end up in a lot of trouble. Because yes, okay, we have event riders and you know, that are doing the more high risk sport, and they get significant injuries and really significant injuries, but a lot of the actual really significant injuries that we see in riders are the walking to the field with the horse, at the gate, loading a horse. You know, these are the issues that we're getting. And if we can almost see where our vulnerable parts are as well, then we can, as an organization, we can campaign to get people to, I don't know, wear their hats when they're loading, and just have that second nature of different bits and pieces. You know, are we finding something with rope burn? Are we finding, you know, there's just so many things, but it's very difficult to push a message. We all know we should do it, but it's when we start actually getting that firm, concrete evidence, scientific evidence behind it, that, you know, you would hope that people maybe take a bit more notice. I hope.
I think that's the thing, though. It's like a two-prong, probably more than 2 prongs. It's probably like a fork attacked.
Yeah.
Get data in, you can look at what people hurt, how they hurt it, what design modifications may or may not be needed from a manufacturer point of view. And we've got incredible, I know you mentioned Charles Owen, but there are amazing organizations that are members of BETA that I have, you know, I've seen in action, either through lives or you know,
well, I did that great one with Champion, didn't I? And Helen came on, she came on and did a rider clinic, and you know, the information and the feedback from that was absolutely phenomenal. And I think equestrians are interested, you know, they are interested and they will engage, but it's just getting that evidence. That's what we need, is the evidence behind it to get it. And also from a medical perspective, if we can start, and there's no reason why from my perspective that we wouldn't be publishing the findings of what we're actually pulling out of this data. You know, trauma doctors and A&E doctors will read it because it's a large proportion of our work, and that then educates the doctors. So like you say, you know, you've got this you got one of those wiggly blinking shaving forks with loads of prongs on.
Loads of prongs. And then as well, if you've got the data, so rather than saying you should wear a hat to turn out, and it's going, yeah, but no one ever gets injured turning out, and you know for a fact that a proportion of people that rock up in your neck of the woods where no one really wants to go there, a lot of that happened doing these activities. I mean, you had, which I will obviously talk about, the Summer of Safety, but you had Paul Tatner on Alive not very long ago. He's won badminton. He's an incredible rider. He had a significant brain injury, I'm not sure if that's the correct term, out hacking a horse that he knew inside out. And I found that really shocking, because we expect riders who are competing at the highest level, competing at badminton, to get injured. You just do, don't you?
Well, that's why they're PPE'd up to the hilt, and why they can't go on the course without it. But you know, the majority of injuries are buckle end at the end of a ride, completely unexpected. You've whipped your feet out the stirrups, whatever you've done. You know, those are the ones where people get caught. And you know, anecdotally, from an intensive care perspective, most of the injuries that go in are not ridden. And also you ride differently, don't you? If you're out on the event course, like, you know, cross country, you will ride defensively. You're very aware of what you're doing, as opposed to just bimbling along, maybe looking at your phone or whatever you're doing, because all's good. You know, and it's that split second, isn't it?
And I suppose as well, when you're riding around a cross-country course, if you're competing, you're not like to have a pheasant fly out the hedge or a car overtake you too quickly, or these things that happen when you're just out hacking, or a low-flying helicopter or some whatever.
Exactly, yeah. And we're not there, and I'm not there, and Beta aren't there to scare people or make people worried about their riding. We would just want people to enjoy their horses, enjoy their time, but just minimize the risks to them and make it as safe as possible. That's all, because we're all equestrians. We don't want to be told not to ride either. So it's not a kind of scare campaign. It's just, let's make it as safe as possible, and then we can take a little bit of the risk down. Why wouldn't we? If we can.
And that's exactly right. It's risk reduction, risk mitigation. Accept there's a risk, and then do something about it if you can.
Yeah.
I think what's been so good about the bits I've seen, obviously I know we're going to talk about the Summer of Safety so far, is that every one of the safety brands involved, obviously they want you to buy their hat because they're business people, but their message is largely just wear the right hat. Doesn't matter whether it's ours, doesn't matter if someone else's, do your best to stay safe, wear the right kit. And I think that's so lovely for the industry as well, that all these big brands are pushing the overall message of let's just wear the right kit.
I get really cross when people say, oh, well, they would, that's their business. Yes, it is, but also they passionately care. I know people who will go on stands and help the retailer. That's what they do. They go and, because they know their product. But, they will fit the right hat. So if their brand doesn't fit, they will fit a different brand, which seems, think, but why would they? Because they care that you're wearing the right kit. And they put all this research, and it is that, I have to say, the British companies that lead the way on research. Di's visited Charles Owen, their Innovation Centre. Champion's got a similar one. They've invested huge amounts of money to be able to continue developing safety and new methods to make safety more attractive. So whether that's a new style hat or a different technology in a body protector, that's what they're about. So yes, they're business people, but actually the ones that are in safety, I really do feel genuinely care passionately about it.
Yeah, and I've met, obviously, with my work with all the King's Horses, I've met with Charles Owen and their team, and also with the Champion team. And I would second what Claire's saying. They want to sell a hat, but do you know what? Those guys are motivated by just get a hat on that fits. That's all they want. And it was so nice to realize that actually that's what they're about. And then on top of that, to learn that they're covering costs for PhDs, for masters, into specifically those were for head injury, and then been involved with the one that that's just going through at the moment, that's being collected for a link between concussion and mental health. All these things, they don't have to do that. They don't have to do any of that. And it's not cheap. It's not cheap to sponsor somebody through that. And it's just, I think they are very responsible. Having met them, they're incredibly responsible.
That makes the data collection even more exciting, because they're going to do something with this. It's not just an exercise.
Exactly. And again, that's where it's quite nice for me, because I can actually be useful, because I have been able to be useful quite quickly just on that one. Could you speak to our master's student and just support, are these the right questions? Is there anything else that you think? So I have been able to actually add some value pretty quickly just into their research as well, and just be there as a support. And I'm genuinely more than happy to do that for any brand, any tack shop, whatever. I'm not bothered. I just want people to have access and understand.
And because what Di's also done is she's taken over doing our safety course. So we do a safety course to teach retailers and coaches and riding schools about fitting safety equipment, but in that we have medical talk, because they have to understand, or have a basic understanding of actually what hats and body protectors can and can't do. And so Di redid that for us, and it's really good because it's modernized it and brought it up to date and expressed in a way that people can really understand. So that's been a really big one for us as well.
That's really cool. And all of this kind of links beautifully onto the current campaign, which is the Beta Summit of Safety, which is a really awesome thing, I think, because safety is so important. Like, we all want to enjoy horses, but we don't, as you say, we want to reduce the risk, we want to learn about it. And it's this real big drive towards educating around safety, isn't it? So can you talk to us a bit about that and how that came about? And because it's a big old campaign for a long length of time as well, and all the different bits.
Yeah, it's a big beast, and I think probably this year is going to be a learning process, and I think we'll probably repeat it. We've typically done weeks, so we did Safety Week or Feed Awareness Week, and I suppose coming out of COVID, there has definitely been an increased interest in safety. You know, when we used to try and do safety campaigns, 15 years ago, even 10 years ago, it was really hard because actually safety can be quite boring sometimes. And so coming out of COVID, we thought, actually, we've probably got more aspects to tackle, because it's not just hats and body protectors, it's all areas of safety. We all want to stay safe when we're riding. And really, there are so many other aspects that we never tackle, whether that be, say, tack safety, or this increased interest in biosecurity, whether that's COVID related or EHV related. So we decided, okay, let's just give it more of a go, because we tend to find it when it's a week, it's really jam-packed. And mind you, it's pretty jam-packed already. But so we thought, let's just give ourselves time and let's run it through the summer and just maybe focus on areas of riding where we don't always talk about, and really focus on understanding how the products work that we use and how they improve safety, and actually how do we look after them. So, hats and body protectors, how do we look after them? Your tack, embarrassingly, I'm not big on cleaning mine, but that, cleaning's great, but also it gives you that chance to look at it and inspect things like the stitching, and understanding whether the thumb on your stirrup should be up or down, just ways that you can, again, what Di said before, reduce the risk in so many ways. Wear gloves when you're turning out, wear gloves when you're lunging, just common sense things, so that we can overall just be safer when we're around our horses. And so it started back in mid-June, late June, and it's running through until mid-September, and we've loosely themed fortnights, but there'll be a crossover of topics as well. So we're focusing on safety equipment, tack, yard, biosecurity, and broad horse safety, horse health, riding and road safety, because that's a big one, and feed safety. So lots in there, and it's pretty much all social media focused, but a lot of our retailers are getting active in store, and there's heaps and heaps of giveaways. So our members are being absolutely brilliant about supporting us, and we're theming those competitions around knowledge concerning safety.
And it's not just aimed at the trade there. So anyone listening here don't think, oh, well, I'm not a retailer. It's not. It's very much supporting the trade, but it's educating everyone, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's very much aimed at the end user. It's really trying to get that message across and getting them involved and taking responsibility. Again, as Di said, actually taking responsibility for your own safety. And so there's it's very much end user focused, but we're drawing in as many of the other equestrian bodies as we can, and the coaches and the riding schools. People like Red Wings are supporting us. Some of the other safety charities like the Mark Davies Injured Riders Fund is supporting us. RDA is supporting us. So really it's an industry-wide campaign, and enables us as well to collect data. So we're doing another beta panel survey that's gone out to loads and loads of people. There's a survey again from Charles Owen that Di mentioned. So there's lots of information gathering as well.
I think it's awesome. And I love as well what you've woven into it quite a lot is stories from riders, stories from more famous riders or more notable figures who have been really great in sharing their experiences as well. I know we've mentioned Paul Tapner, but I thought that was such a great thing to say. We've had it was a really great 360 actually, because Di, who would have been the kind of person who would have tried to fix Paul. You've obviously had Paul, who's had the injury, and obviously Claire with your knowledge about hats and also even because obviously Claire's a rider herself as well, the what 3 words style app and the phone Find Your iPhone. So I thought it was brilliant to get those real life experiences in, because the theory is brilliant, and really important. But when people go, actually, this is exactly what happened to me and this is how it played out, I think it just makes it all the more real, doesn't it?
Yeah, but you're right as well. And we're not trying to scare people, because we love riding and we all accept that there's a risk involved. But it's understanding that things go wrong and how are you going to deal with it. So yeah, and we're going to get some more lives going. So we've had the Stockdales agree to come on, which will be great, really, just to see how some of those people deal on a day-to-day basis with safety, whether that's going to a show, what do they do before they go to make things safer for them, or what do they do at home with regards to their tech, just to try and really bring it out and give real life experiences. And we've had loads of people contacting us with their stories, and we really want to try and get those out as well, about what safety means to them, and what, you know, the hat or the body protector or whatever they were wearing helped them in their accident.
No, I think that's great. And I know that obviously Di is going to be involved in lots of it as well, but you're kind of focusing a lot on the medical side.
Yeah, I think, you know, there is information that we can give out for sort of in between. You know, it can be quite a long time until an ambulance arrives. I'm not saying that their response time is bad, but, you know, when we're riding and we're off hacking and nobody knows where you are and stuff like that, you know, if we can just get people to think about it, you know, if you are going, have a plan, you know, have a phone with you, as Paul said, have your, you know, somebody know where you'll go, roughly where you're going to go, what time you're expected back at the yard, you know, just having that little bit more of a plan in what we're doing, I think will just hopefully make things a bit better.
I do think the education as well around it, because, you know, I've done first aid courses before, quite a few of them actually. When I used to be a riding instructor, obviously you had to do it as part of that, and it was very useful. But it's like, oh, don't do this and don't do that. But what I'm loving about the Summer of Safety is I'm learning why we shouldn't be doing these things, or why we should be doing these things that make you all the more aware if someone starts to do something, rather than you think, I'm sure I was told this isn't a good idea. You know why it's not a good idea, and you will be determined on ensuring that that does not happen. Which is mega, isn't it? These little changes, these little things.
It's huge. And I think because we're using social media, we're actually using what equestrians access. I mean, that's what I access to look at horsey stuff. You know, I look at the people that I follow, and, you know, they'll have hacks from tidying up Winnie's forelock to actually, you know, if you're going to fall off, this is the way to do it, or whatever. Like, do you know what I mean? There's so much information. But what we're trying to do is get validated, correct information out as well, that's coming from, with the support of manufacture and the support of the medical side, so that you've got trusted information that you can access. And it's always there, because it's, you know, it's on, it's that old adage, if it's on social media, you can never get rid of it. So it's there after the event, and, you know, if you're not available to listen to something, you can just catch up in your own time. And that's, you know, it's a great medium, you know, oh, you love it obviously, but it's you know, I think it's a great medium for education.
And I think it's great that we can get experts as well, because, you know, there are so many blogs and everybody asks their mates, but sometimes you need the expert. And so that's why it's great having Di on board. We're looking at getting a vet. Ria's helping us with that, because, you know, there's lots of areas like first aid kits. How many of us in the yard, our equine first aid kit is brilliant. How many is actually has a human first aid kit in the yard? I don't know that we do, actually, embarrassingly.
See,
but,
I am guilty of that, and who wouldn't have a bit? So I have maybe a bit in the house, but I probably have the worst human first aid kit in the world. Yet my equine one, I could operate. It's amazing. It's even got surgical equipment in it, just in case. I'm not even joking, because they're so precious to me that there is everything for them. But yeah, as Claire said, I mean, for me, I don't think I could even put my hand on a plaster, if I'm honest.
Though, probably shouldn't say this, but obviously if you're listening, I am not a doctor. Do not follow this advice. Cohesive bandages.
Yeah, vet wrap. Amazing.
The dream.
Yeah. Who needs a plaster with Mr. Bump on? Vet wrap all the way.
And some really cool colours. I can get away with a lot of the children like, oh, my leg hurts. I'm like, I can fix that. Oh dear. No, it's going to be awesome. I think as well what you said about information is really important, where it comes from on everything. And I know that one thing I've seen quite a lot on social, I know that you're quite passionate about, is safety stirrups and people talking about those. And whilst it does appear that they can help in different situations, there's actually no standard for them, is there?
No, scarily. No, there's not. There's and the concern is that, you know, in the old days, and even safety stirrups have really taken off over the last couple of years. You know, as long as like maybe 5 years ago, we were asked about safety stirrups and there was the peacock and that was about it. And then there's almost this blurry line between stirrups that are developed that are slightly safety-ish, but are more done so that you know, to take the strain off your joints, whether that be ankle or back, like the bouncy ones, versus the other ones where safety stirrups typically have something that break off. So, you know, the peacock ones are the ones with the rubber band down the side, which are really only for children, please, and very, very light adults. The modern generation have bits that come out or fall out, and that's fine, but our concern is what's making them come off or fall out, and are they all they're not standardized. And we've heard anecdotally some riders say, well, mine come out when they shouldn't, and then they don't when they should. And so there are no common tests. So like with body protectors, the hats, or the PPE, which is personal protective equipment, that is standardized, that has to meet certain performance requirements. And so at least you know that everybody starts off in the same place. Whereas with safety stirrups, you sort of think, and I've done a lot of homework about, you know, what's on the market, and some actually, the manufacturers themselves don't refer to them as safety stirrups, but riders do. And so there's that problem as well. So we've just trying to set up a working group, and the FEI, amazingly, I'm very excited, have agreed to appoint somebody to sit on that as well, with some manufacturers, just to start to try and explore what makes a safety stirrup safe and what parameters can you put on them. Because, you know, we've got standards for hats and body protectors. We're working on a standard for air vest, because that's the other one. There is a standard for safety boots. A lot of people don't realise, but there is a standard for a safety boot with a steel toe. So, you know, they're the key bits, but there's nothing, there's even a standard, would you believe, for the tree in your saddle, but bizarrely, but there is. But there's not one for that key. And when you think of it, stirrups.
And you only normally buy one pair, don't you? And, you know, and they're expensive. Look, gone are the days where you pick up your stirrups for 20 quid, aren't they? Like, you know, people spend hundreds of pounds, or even if they're not buying the, you know, 200-300 quid ones, you know, they're spending a good £100 on a pair of stirrups, and they're going to use them usually for the lifetime of that horse, and then maybe on to the next one. So it's a big purchase. And, you know, as we said before, we're not there to make, you know, don't, as like, you know, the fun vampires, but, you know, just make an informed decision, you know, decide, you know. And if you decide, well, I don't want that, that's not important to me, okay, but make that decision based on having the right information.
And also with stirrups, they've got to fit. A lot of people don't realise they've got to fit. And if you wear different footwear, then you just, you know, if you bought your stirrup based on your posh dressage boot, and then you hack out in clumpy old country boots, then they might not fit anymore. And the other one that we're focusing on is shoulder protectors, because body protectors are great, but actually shoulder protectors have a real role in reducing the it's a clavicle fracture, isn't it, Di?
Yes, it's the collarbone fractures. So the clavicular fractures. There was just a short study done, but it was done, and it was done correctly, that showed that there was a huge reduction in actual fracture rate, severity of fracture rate, just by having the actual shoulder protectors that fit your body protector in situ. So
I was at Windsor on Friday and was on one of the stands of a member, and a young girl came in with a mother, and she'd had a collarbone fracture, and she was just about to get it back on a horse, bless her, and she came in looking for a body protector with shoulder, and we said you need shoulder protectors, with that. That's exactly what could have made a difference between a fracture, a broken, and maybe not quite as severe. And so she bought shoulder protectors.
And do you know what? You want to avoid a blinking clavicular fracture because they're blinking sore, and we do not fix many of them. Most of them will fix by just you being in a sling. If they're really displaced, then they might get some surgery to fix them, but they are excruciatingly painful for weeks.
And that's the thing, isn't it?
Not an easy one.
A lot of these safety things that we're talking about, yes, they can absolutely save you from or reduce serious injury. I don't know what the correct term is, but if you are a rider, you are riding for your job and you fall off and you bust your
clavicle or collarbone,
you're out of action for quite a long time. So actually,
and that's everything, right? That's you not working, right? That's not you working. Or if you're DIY or like me, you've got horses at home, who's going to look after those horses? Because you can't muck them out. You can't wheel a wheelbarrow with one arm. You wouldn't even want to because you'd be in that much pain. Like, how do you do how do you do what you need to do? It's a huge impact.
So it's not about not doing it, but it's how we can reduce reduce the risk to not just serious injury, but just making everyone's life better and easier, and stopping the reduction in, as you say, serious injuries, but also breaks and things that just make everything so much harder.
But I think that's part of what kind of, in a way, although I hate the C word, is part of what COVID did, because I think people had to think and make a plan about what happens if I can't go to my horse or I can't do this. And I think potentially for me, I think that's where some of the safety stuff has come from. The more interest in people looking after themselves, and definitely even with other illnesses, we've definitely seen that people are taking more responsibility for their own health. I mean, even I afterwards was like, I'm going to improve my diet. I'm going to start taking some proper supplements. I'm going to really make sure I get some decent sleep. I'm going to do, and really stuck to it, because it's kind of given everybody a bit of a shake up, hasn't it? And so I think having those, plans in place for everything is just really critical, really critical.
And I also think that we've seen a lot of people start riding during and post COVID. I think a lot of people have had a life reassessment and thought, actually, I've always wanted to do this. Or maybe for whatever reason, either they've been working at home so they've had more time, or they were furloughed. They suddenly thought, actually, I've got time. And so it's, I'm not going to put it off any longer. So we have seen a lot of people start or go back to riding. And that's those sorts of people, especially if they're older, will then take more care about the safety.
And that group, as you get older, your bone's not as good. And, it's not, you're not going to like fracture by, doing something silly, but you've not got the same bone density as somebody that's kind of 20. And it can have huge effects, injury, not only if they're serious and life-changing, but even just having the inconvenience of a clavicular fracture can could put somebody in a position of not being able to pay their mortgage. Nobody wants that, and want you to go on riding your horses and having a great time, because that's what we like to see, the happy smiley pictures on Instagram or Facebook or whatever your platform of choice is, seeing people enjoying themselves and out and about.
And I genuinely think that initiatives like the Summer of Safety are really going to help people do that.
100%.
It makes you think, actually, when did I last change my hat? Have I dropped it on the floor? And when did I last have my body protector checked for fit because I've put on a bit of weight, or I've lost a bit of weight, or when have I properly cleaned my tack and looked at all of that stitching? It just makes you just think a bit harder, but those things could really just make such a huge difference.
And I think people need to remember as well that BETA is the trade association, so this is your manufacturers, your retailers that obviously all join and become members and pay their membership subs and are supporting equestrians to be safe. So your retailers, your tack shops, your manufacturers, everybody is behind this campaign. You know, it's huge. It's huge what they're doing.
Very exciting. And so much as well that people can do for free. So, you know, I know that we've talked about this in different ways, but if you're not sure about the fit of your hat, you can go to your retailer, can't you? Your local beta retailer, and they will check it for you. They will help you. We all want people, beta retailers, everybody, they want their customers to be safe.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's exactly what you do. You know, you can watch videos online so you can check your own, but also if you're doubtful, that's when you go in and they can double check it for you. They can check the standards, right? You know, if you've got an old hat, they can tell you whether the standard's still valid or not, because that's important as well. And whether it's safety equipment or, as you say, tack. You know, my horse has a very nasty habit of trying to bite her reins when I'm tacking her up, which does rubbish for my reins. So I go through reins like you wouldn't believe, or cracked leather, or you know, footwear. If you've had your horse stand on your toes, which mine do a lot, so I only wear safety boots now, but you know, the role that they play. So yeah, I mean, and also advise you on how often. You know, a lot of riders think, well, you're going to tell me I have to replace it every 3 years. Well, no, but it does vary. So if you're riding every day, then yeah, you might need a new hat every 3 years. But if you only ride once a month, then your hat will probably go on for 5, 6, 7 years. So it does depend on how often you wear. You know, like your favourite pair of shoes. The more you wear them, the shorter the lifespan.
But also, if you buy a hat for, let's say, £100, I know there's hats that are more expensive and less. If you're wearing it every day for 3 years, what's the cost per wear?
Absolutely.
It's just nothing, and it could save you having a significant head injury.
Yeah,
hugely.
hugely.
Sometimes we need to do.
It's also reducing those if onlys, and that's the only thing I guess I'd say. Just it's a bit anecdotal, but when somebody has had a life-changing injury, there's a lot of emotions that they obviously go through, and the one that I really hate to see is the one where why didn't I? You know, it's bad enough to cope with and accept a life-changing injury, but if you know that if you'd have just had your hat on, or you just had a body protector on as well, that may not have happened at all, or actually significantly reduced, that makes it even more difficult for them. If they've done everything they can, then it was part of the acceptable risk that they took, you know, and it does make recovery mentally, from a mental health point of view, much, much more arduous for somebody.
I can believe that.
Yeah.
So Claire, tell us all the places we can find out about the Summer of Safety, where people can watch the live, they can enter. There's some incredible competitions. I know that Di's quite cross, you can't enter them, but
I can't enter any of them.
No,
Who signed up for that?
Neither can
Who
I.
signed up for that? Not even me.
So you can go to our Facebook, which is at Beta Equestrian, Instagram, there where we run most of our competitions on. But you can also check in with members to see what they're doing on their website. So there's a lot of you check your local member. You can go to the Beta website, which is beta-uk.org, and look at everything there. There's links through to questionnaires there. You can find your local member. There's also a bit on LinkedIn, but it's really Insta, Facebook, and our website. And the manufacturers all are doing their own thing. And as I say, the retailers are also sharing. Some of them have in-store events. If they've got a store and it's open, then they are timing in their own events during the summer as well.
Brilliant. And I know, obviously, Di, what the lives and different things that you're involved with, and you're promoting it quite heavily as well. So can you just remind us on all the bits where we can find you online?
Yeah, so if you want to contact me as a Beta member, you can get me via Beta, and I do have a Beta email address there. But if you want to look at any of the other social stuff that we're doing to support, then that's on all the King's Horses, which is Facebook and Instagram.
Thank you very much, ladies. That has been brilliant.
It's a pleasure.
Good fun.